see the danger coming close. It feels like home.
What if I told you that one young man just received an award that has never existed before in the entire history of figure skating, and the people who gave it to him said they created it specifically because of what he does? Not because he won, not because he was the most consistent, but because, according to the judges and the sport's biggest governing body, what he does on ice simply cannot be categorized by any existing standard. Think about that for a second. Every rule, every scorecard, every benchmark in his sport was built before he arrived, and now they're building new ones just for him. His name is Ilia Malinin. He's 20 years old. He was born in Virginia to two former professional figure skaters, so you could say ice runs through his blood. But here's the thing that nobody could have predicted, not even his parents. The thing that Ilia would eventually do on ice would leave even the most decorated veterans of the sport standing there, mouths open, wondering if what they just witnessed was real. Before we get to that moment, before we get to why he just became the first ever recipient of the Trailblazer on Ice award, I need to take you back. Because the story of how a kid from Fairfax, Virginia rewrote the rulebook of one of the world's most demanding sports starts long before anyone was paying attention. Ilia Malinin grew up watching his parents skate. His mother, Tatiana Malinina, was a champion. His father, Roman Skornyakov, competed at the highest level. From the time Ilia could walk, he was on the ice. Not because he had to be, but because it felt like the only place that made complete sense to him. By the time he was a teenager, he was already being described as unusually gifted. But gifted in figure skating is a crowded word. There are hundreds of gifted skaters. What separated Ilia was something different. It was obsession. It was the willingness to attempt what everyone else looked at and said, that's not possible. Not in competition, not under pressure, not cleanly. And that word, cleanly, is where everything changes. September 14th, 2022, skating at the U.S. International Classic in Salt Lake City, Utah, Ilia Malinin lands the first quad axel in competitive history. Let that sink in. The quad axel is the most technically demanding jump in figure skating. It requires a skater to rotate 4.5 times, 4.5 in the air in roughly half a second. Experts had debated for years whether it was even physically achievable in competition. Some called it the Mount Everest of skating jumps. Ilia didn't just climb Everest, he ran up it at 19 years old, and he made it look, this is the part that still shakes people, almost casual. But here's what the highlight reels don't show you. The years of falls, the injuries, the mornings when his body said no and he showed up anyway. Elite figure skating is a sport where a fraction of a second separates a champion from a competitor who finishes off the podium. The margins are razor thin. The physical and mental toll is enormous. And Ilia, this kid who looks like he's barely old enough to vote, carries all of that pressure with this quiet, focused composure that borders on unsettling. His coaches describe a young man who doesn't celebrate early and doesn't spiral when things go wrong. He simply adjusts, he recalibrates, and then he tries again. That kind of mental architecture in a sport this unforgiving is almost as impressive as the jumps themselves. Which brings us to the moment that sparked everything you're watching right now. Ilia Malinin has just been named the first ever recipient of the Trailblazer on Ice Award, a brand new distinction created by the skating establishment to recognize athletes whose contribution to the sport goes beyond medals and records. The award is designed for skaters who fundamentally change the trajectory of their discipline, who raise the ceiling so high that the entire sport has to look up and reassess what it thought was possible. And the people who handed Ilia this award, the judges, the federation officials, the veterans, they didn't do it because they had to. They created something entirely new because they couldn't find a category that fit him. That is not a small thing. That is historic. Now, layer on top of this what's coming, the Olympics. the stage where legacies are truly forged, where names are either remembered forever or swallowed by history. Ilia Malinin is positioned to walk into the biggest sporting event on the planet as not just a medal contender, but as the man who already changed his sport before the games even began. Think about what that means. Athletes spend entire careers chasing relevance at the Olympics. Ilia arrives having already redefined the rulebook. The question isn't whether he belongs there. The question, the one that has every skating analyst, every coach, every competitor watching, is just how far he can push it. And if you've been paying attention to this kid for even 5 minutes, you already know the answer to that question is further than you think. What Ilia Malinin represents goes beyond any single jump or any single award. In a world where most industries, sports, business, technology, entertainment, reward playing it safe, staying within the defined boundaries and not rocking the boat, Ilia showed up and did the opposite. He looked at the hardest thing in his sport and said, "I'm going to do that, in competition, on the world stage," and he did it. That kind of courage is rare, not just in sports, in life. The willingness to attempt something that the existing framework says is impossible and then actually pull it off, that's the kind of story that transcends figure skating. That's the kind of story that belongs in every conversation about what human potential actually looks like. Ilia Malinin is 20 years old. He has already landed a jump nobody else in history has ever landed in competition. He has already won a world championship. He has already received an award that was literally created for him. And the Olympics, the biggest stage of his career, is still ahead. Whatever happens next, one thing is already true. Figure skating will never look the same as it did before Ilia arrived. And honestly, that's the most exciting thing in sports right now. If this story got you thinking, drop a comment below. Tell me, who else do you think belongs in the conversation about athletes who changed their sport forever? Subscribe if you want to be here when the next chapter of this story unfolds, because with Ilia Malinin, there is always a next chapter.